Good evening and welcome to the Carnegie Town Hall. This meeting of the City Planning Commission will begin with a few introductory remarks. The City of Sioux Falls Planning Commission serves as an advisory board to the City Council. It is the responsibility of the Planning Commission to consider and make recommendations on land use and zoning matters. Actions taken tonight on conditional use permits are final unless appealed to the City Council in writing within 5 days. And any actions tonight taken on final development plans, design review, or minor amendments are final. Any recommendations made on preliminary subdivision plan requests tonight will be referred to the City Council for final action at the third council meeting of this month or at the first council meeting of next month if associated with a rezoning or major amendment. Any recommendations made on rezoning requests, major amendments, future land use amendments, or ordinance amendments tonight will be referred to the City Council for final action at the first council meeting of next month. Council meetings are held at 7 p.m. here in the Carnegie Town Hall and are televised. The Planning Commission will first approve the consent agenda and then the regular agenda. In order to place certain non-controversial items on the Commission's consent agenda, planning staff and the Planning Commission apply the following criteria. First, the request conforms with the Shape Sioux Falls 2035 Comprehensive Plan. Second, planning staff recommends approval of the request. Third, there are no audience members present or written comments received in opposition to the request. And fourth, the application meets all conditions and requirements of the Sioux Falls zoning ordinance. By approving the consent agenda, the Planning Commission is approving the items on consent. Therefore, upon approval of the consent agenda, those members of the public in attendance for those consent items are free to leave. For the regular agenda, the following normal public hearing procedure will be followed for each item. By first requesting planning staff to present a brief report on that item. Second, the petitioner or representative will be requested to come forward to make a statement or answer questions. After the petitioner has spoken, anyone from the audience who wishes to address the agenda item shall be recognized. Then the Planning Commission will discuss the matter further and take appropriate action. We ask that everyone addressing the Planning Commission move to the podium, microphone, and identify themselves for the record. Please limit your comments to less than 5 minutes. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, we ask that you please either turn off or silence your electronic devices. This meeting is being televised on CityLink and will be rebroadcast Saturday at 10 a.m., Friday at 7 p.m., and Wednesday at 1 a.m. Thank you for your cooperation. Good evening and welcome to Carnegie Town Hall. I'll call this regular meeting of the City Planning Commission to order, and we'll begin as we have for about the last year, maybe even a little longer than that, talking about a project that has gone above and beyond, not just met the minimum standards, but something that has exceeded what the minimum standards are, and we'll recognize them for their efforts to be a positive project in the city. So I'll allow Ken Dunlap to go forward and do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hilltop United Methodist Church has been located in the Bonson Avenue and 18th Street neighborhood for more than 50 years. In 1985, it was refreshed with an addition and remodel, and now this summer with a new monument sign and memorial wall. They are a small church of 300 members, and when the congregation was challenged to raise funds, they accomplished the task and now have a new symbol for their church. For Planning Commission recognition, we usually acknowledge projects that have gone above and beyond in their design and integration into the community. But Hilltop Church is also recognized for their gifts of redemption within the neighborhood it resides. Homes near the church are as old as the church itself, and when the staff and members recognized that there were a few homes that needed updating, several hardworking and humble members reached out to their neighbors and shared their talents by painting several of the homes. Tonight, we recognize Hilltop United Methodist for the enhancement to their church home and the gifts and service that they have given to their community.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, we'll move on to approve both the consent and the regular agendas. So the consent agenda items are ones that are non-controversial that will be approved all at one point. Unless there are objections from members in the audience or planning staff or planning commission members. But to get that started, I'll ask Denise to read the consent agenda items.
Mr. Chair, I need to step down from the consent.
All right.
As do I.
As do I.
All right.
Item 1, approval of September 3rd, 2014 minutes of regular meeting. Item 2, plats. Item 3, the 2014-09-01 rezone from the I-2 Heavy Industrial District to the CN Conservation District for allowed forms located to the southwest of East 54th Street North and North Jessica Avenue. Item 4, 2014-09-04 rezone from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood Streetcar District for allowed forms located at 4801 East Linden Lane. Item 5, 2014-09-05 rezone from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood Streetcar District for allowed forms located at 500 South Hillview Road. Item 6, 2014-09-07 rezone from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RS Single Family Residential, Suburban and O Office District to the I-1 Light Industrial District and the O Office District for allowed forms located southeast of North Marion Road and West 5th Street. Item 7, 2014-09-11 Initial Development Plan in the S2 Institutional Campus Planned Unit Development for the Southeast Technical Institute Campus located at 2320 North Career Avenue.
Thank you, Denise. I understand we've already had a request to move item number 5 to the regular agenda. Other than item number 5, is there anyone in the audience that wanted to move items 1 to 4 or 6 and 7 to the regular agenda? Any planning commission members care to adjust the consent agenda? If not, I would look for commission action.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 4, and 6 and 7.
We have a motion and a second. Does somebody want to amend the consent to move item number 5 to the regular?
You tell us we have to.
That's Denise is going to tell me that's what we have to do, so I'll listen to her.
Okay, I'll make that motion as well.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to amend the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed, same sign. So the amendment has been approved, and now we have the consent agenda as amended. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. So the consent agenda has been approved. If you were here for one of those items, you're free to go. You can always stay and watch if you want to, but you don't have to. Then with that, we would move on to approve the regular agenda. I would look for commission action.
I move to approve the agenda,
Have
regular agenda.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Regular agenda has been approved.
Item 5 is a 2014-09-05 rezone from the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood Streetcar District for allowed forms located at 500 South Hillview Road.
Jason Bieber, representing the Planning Department of the City of Sioux Falls. This is an application by Bryant Solberg. It is located at 500 South Hillview Road, which is south of East Arrowhead Parkway and west of South Foss Avenue. The applicant is proposing to rezone roughly 0.24 acres from the RD1 zoning district to the C2 commercial district for future commercial development. The applicant eventually intends to demolish the existing home on the property and construct a retail building on this lot along with the 2 adjacent lots to the east. Future retail development on the site will be required a level C buffer yard on the south and west sides. This buffer yard will include a 30-foot setback with a 4-foot high berm and 40 units of landscaping per every 100 lineal feet. An exception to that, a parking lot may encroach into this buffer yard by 10 feet. However, a 4-foot high fence and 2-foot berm would be required in replace of the just 4-foot berm. The north and east sides are adjacent to commercial property, therefore a buffer yard will not be required. The proposed zoning does meet the Shape Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan, and this parcel will be combined with the 2 existing C2 commercial parcels to the east for future retail development. These additional parcels do have frontage on a Type 1 arterial street, East Arrowhead Parkway. And the required berm should alleviate some of the incompatibilities and help provide the proper land use transition from the commercial development to the residential uses on the south and west sides. Because the subject application is consistent with the Shape Sioux Falls Comprehensive Plan and the proper land use transition as stated in Shape Sioux Falls will exist with the required buffer yard, staff does recommend approval of the rezoning. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jason. Are there any questions from Planning Commission members for staff?
Jason, on this, you mentioned the 4-foot berm with the landscaping or a fence combined with the berm. Do we know which way it's going yet? Or?
We do not. The 4-foot berm is required if they maintain the 30-foot setback. Now, if they want to encroach a parking lot 10 feet into that 30-foot setback, so essentially 20 feet, then they have to provide a 2-foot berm and a 4-foot fence. Otherwise, they're required the 4-foot berm.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jason? Thank you. Is the applicant here? I'd ask you to come up, state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, Brian Solberg, 46001, 265th Street, Hartford.
Anything you care to add to the staff report, Brian?
Well, I'd just like to add that before the adoption of the Shape Places ordinances, it was commercial, zone commercial earlier, and so we just, we don't have a plan yet exactly with what we're going to do with the whole piece. We own the 2 properties there to the east, and then the third one also, and then the other property going to the south, kind of L-shaped. So as soon as we come up with a plan, we're gonna, we may use that house area once it's taken out as maybe part of the parking or, I don't know, drive-through area or something. So, yeah.
Thank you, Bryant. Are there any questions? All right. Thank you. Anyone else from the audience that wanted to comment on item number 5? Nobody? Okay, I would look for commission action.
I'll motion for, to approve item number 5.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think we were told by the petitioner that this was previously zoned commercial.
Right.
And I was surprised that this was then zoned back to residential. I guess I thought it would be under Shape Sioux Falls that it would become the highest use that was on it at the time the zoning went into effect.
I think it would, and we can maybe ask staff this, but I would think that it's, because it is a house or a twin home, that's what the zoning would be under Shape Places, because the use wasn't different than that. So
I just say that as an aside.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Item 5 passes.
Item 8 is a 2014-0903 conditional use permit in the RE3 form to allow accessory alcohol within 100 feet of a sensitive land use located at 5012 South Cliff Avenue.
Jason Bieber with the Planning Department. This is an application by Maxwell Wynn, and he is looking to offer his clients wine with their getting their nails done. It is located at 5012 South Cliff Avenue in an existing strip center just south of the Walgreens. The proposed accessory alcohol is located adjacent to the Glenview Park on the east. However, the majority of this park is undeveloped and used more for water detention than an actual park. The existing playground is located in the extreme southeast corner of the park, roughly 900 feet from the accessory alcohol request. And because the application has provided clarity to indicate the location, nature, and extent of the work proposed, staff recommends approval of this conditional use permit. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions for Jason? All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Hi.
Hi, if you'd state your name and your address. For the
Yes,
record.
this is Paula Wing, and I'm Max's wife, and it's at 5012 South Cliff Avenue is a salon, and we're requesting a wine license to provide for our clients to do pedicures when they come in and get the nails and done. So,
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Anybody from the audience want to comment on item number 8? With that, I would look for commission action.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 8.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, is this a situation where it's specific to this owner, or will this conditional use always be allowed at that property?
That's a good question for Jason or Jeff, whoever wants to jump in.
That is a condition that we've done in the past for this applicant only, and that's something that's not currently on the staff report, but if you guys feel you wanted to add that as a condition of approval, you definitely could.
I would recommend.
So you want to amend the motion to include the stipulation that it's for this applicant only?
I would move to amend.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second on the amendment. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All right, the amendment is approved. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Any discussion on that? All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, same sign. Item 8 carries as amended.
Item 9 is 2014-0810, Initial Development Plan in the S2 Institutional Campus Planned Unit Development for the Sanford Hospital Main Campus located at the southwest corner of West 18th Street and South Grange Avenue.
Good evening, Diane DeCoyer with planning staff. Sanford Health Systems is the applicant this evening for their initial development plan in the S2 Institutional Campus PUD for allowed uses. The submitted plan is showing existing and proposed growth of the campus located approximately between West 26th Street to the south, West 16th Street to the north, Southwest Avenue to the west, and South Prairie Avenue to the east. The campus has historically been zoned within a planned development district with individual areas added over time. With the passing of Shape Places zoning ordinance becoming effective in April of this year, the approximately 100 acres is now zoned to S2 Institutional Campus PUD. An initial development plan is required to be approved by the Planning Commission prior to any new construction. Developments within the planned unit development district shall comply with the policies and design standards of the Shape Sioux Falls 2035 Comprehensive Plan. The development shall be mutually compatible with adjacent existing and projected developments. Prior to construction of any lots in the planned unit development, the petitioner shall submit a final development plan showing the information as specified in the Shape Places zoning ordinance to the planning staff, who shall approve or deny the plan based upon conformance with the initial development plan and standards of the PUD. On submission of the individual building projects, Planning staff will review for conformance of the respective final development plans. Any initial development plan standards that are not met in the final development plan will require an amendment and approval again by the Planning Commission. The initial development plan requires that the petitioner provide the required elements to review of their initial development plans. Some of those elements are setbacks. Specific setbacks will be based on the form established for each proposed building within Sanford's initial development plan. Buffer yards will be provided based on the form in the PUD and the adjacent forms in the residential zoning districts. The applicant has indicated that they will generally comply with buffer yard requirements as outlined in the zoning ordinance, except where they own adjacent residential property. At the time of the final development plan review, the applicant may propose a modified setback based on the proposed building height. In most cases where the applicant is proposing a new building adjacent to residential, a level D buffer yard would be required. This would require a 45-foot total setback with a 6-foot high berm or fence and 50 units of landscaping for each 100 lineal feet. Parking standards within an S2 PUD may utilize shared parking calculations. The submitted plan indicates individual and shared parking lots and ramps for the proposed buildings. The applicant will be required to submit a master parking plan of the campus prior to a final development plan submittal, with updates to the plan when a final development plan is submitted. With pedestrian connections with future buildings, parking lots, and ramps, they're identified on the plan with paths to coordinate with public sidewalks. Drainage will be reviewed by city engineers when the applicant submits a final development plan for each proposed project on the campus. The applicant held a neighborhood meeting on August 28th to present their initial development plan. Because the subject application of the Sanford Health PUD initial development plan is consistent with the required standards of the S2 PUD and has recognized that the final development requirements will be reviewed at the time of submittal for each individual building to minimize negative effects, staff recommends approval of the request. I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Diane. Are there any questions for Diane? If not, I would ask the applicant to come up.
Good evening, Orland Cheddar. I'm Vice President of Facilities and Planning at Sanford Health. Thank you for the opportunity to share some comments with you this evening on this project. As you know and was just stated, this is being driven primarily by the change in the ordinance, shaped places that was voted on by the citizens in April and approved at that time. We believe we're one of the early adopters. I'm not sure that we're first. I know there was some on the consent agenda, but I expect that you folks will see a number of these coming forward over the next few weeks and months as people are developing their initial development plans, which is exactly what this is. Our long-term plan here is to demonstrate to you and to the city, and we have long been asked by city officials to provide an overview of what we might potentially be considering, what our growth plans might be around and on our campus. This certainly is extremely detailed. We understand that. It's a very large document with lots and lots of information. But we believe it's helpful not only to the city and to officials who are interested in what our plan is, but also to neighbors and people in the area who would be interested in understanding what our plan would be moving forward. Again, since this is an initial development plan, we're not here asking for a specific project. I can tell you that out of all of those blue boxes you see represented on that map, we currently have one project under construction that would be on our Cancer Center building, located basically between 17th and 18th Streets in what would have been Lake Avenue, although that street has been vacated. That's the only active project that we currently have. We expect to announce reasonably soon an additional project that would likely be located on or near the area of 22nd and Grange. But of course, with that will come the final development plan and all of the details that go along with that. We certainly recognize that our growth and the size and scope of our campus is important to the area residents, but also to the city and to the community, and even frankly to the region. And consequently, as part of this process, we did hold a neighborhood meeting, as was mentioned, on August 28th. I personally was not in attendance. My colleague, Mr. Winkles, was at that meeting and chaired that meeting on our behalf. We had sent letters to 220 residents, and basically the people who received those letters would be anyone with property adjacent to our PUD or directly across the street from any property in our PUD. We had 66 people that signed in as attending our neighborhood meeting, although by rough head count, I understand there was nearly 150 people present. So that was a large group. We just were not able to capture everyone's information. I understand the discussion was spirited at times. These opportunities for our neighbors and people in the community to come forward and talk about issues, talk about concerns that they might have. This is the forum in which we offer them that opportunity. And although the discussion at times was not directly related to an initial development plan, it was good discussion. And we highlighted three topics of general concern. There were other conversations, but one was concerns about water and drainage within our PUD and neighboring our PUD. Excuse me. We understand fully that it's not only our responsibility, but also the responsibility of the city to work on and manage drainage issues. We take responsibility for those projects that we build and comply with the pooling of water and the development of areas that will hold water rather than allowing it to drain directly into streets or into storm sewers. That is a combination of responsibility, again, for both us and the city, and we certainly comply with that as projects are developed. We also had comments about condition of some of our rental properties in the area. You may well be aware of the fact that we had a horrendous hailstorm through that part of the city this summer. Perhaps some of you may have been impacted by that. We did have some roofs that were badly damaged in some properties, and those are either already replaced or will be replaced if that's necessary based on the condition. We also received one letter from a neighbor that asked about two specific properties. There was some cleanup around those properties that was requested. We used our internal maintenance and construction services crew to attend to some of those specific requests. The other issue that was brought up as a general concern was parking. You may or may not be aware of the fact that in early September, we opened a new parking lot facility for our employees that has the capacity of 340 cars. We have been doing counts in that lot since it opened not quite a month ago, and we're averaging about 125 cars in that lot on a daily basis, which demonstrates to us and hopefully to you that we have significant capacity for additional parking to be occurring in that lot. As a final reminder, this is an initial development plan. We're not here asking about or requesting any specific project. What we've shown on this map and what we've developed for you, frankly, is probably at least 25 to 50 years of projections. Many of these projects are likely not to be built, although this demonstrates what could potentially happen over the course of that many years. We wanted you to be sure of that so that you didn't look at this map and think, wow, we're building all of those things. Some may or may not be built, and the time frame will certainly be much longer than I will be in this role. So we are certainly confident that we have met all the requirements for the approval of the initial development plan and would respectfully ask that you approve this request. I'd be happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you, OT. I just do want to say thanks from all of us and from the city for being one of the guinea pigs going through this process, as we've adopted Shape Places over the last couple months and have pushed for initial development plans so we and the neighbors can all get an inkling of what might be coming for the next 25 or 50 years. But I want to say thanks for your work in this process.
Well, it does take a lot of work, and we're happy to have developed it at least to this point, and hope that it is helpful for you. Thanks.
Any questions for OT?
Well, and I just have a couple of questions.
Of course.
I think we have seen, certainly in your time at Sanford and my time on, that drainage is a common question, and Sanford has a few BMPs on their site, but often Sanford handles the drainage a bit different with some underground detention. And I think maybe if there's a little clarification on that, maybe the neighbors were not aware of that, because it is not the most common sort of water detention.
That's a very good point. Thank you for that comment. We do have in a couple of different places where we have developed either new buildings or surface lots that are taking away green space. We have elected in a couple of those places to actually put in underground or unseen water retention facilities, so that first of all, we don't lose the space by putting it into a parking lot or into a building lot, and secondly, it is doesn't offer any unsightliness. It's out of sight, out of mind, but still is functioning in a manner that allows that water to be retained and then drained over a period of time. In the new parking lot that we just developed, we did, of course, follow the requirements of the Shape Places ordinance. And if you've had a chance to see that, you'll notice that on the east side of that lot, we were able to put in that detention of water with some fencing and with some landscaping that really looks quite nice. We're very pleased with how that lot turned out and how it blends in and matches with our campus. But a very good point. We certainly do meet and exceed any of the requirements for water retention, recognizing that there are at times 100-year floods and 100-year rains and some things that just cannot be controlled by man, but we make every effort to make sure that we're complying.
Well, I think just to the naked eye, you would think that they just put up a flat surface parking lot, so where is all that water going to go?
Right.
Where the reality is, or they put up a huge building. The reality is some of that water is being detained below and then eventually filtered into the...
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and if I may just add to that, this is an initial development plan, so as they come forward with the final development plans, each project will be looked at on an individual basis and reviewed. The drainage will be reviewed on an individual basis as well, which is important, I think, for everybody to know. Yeah,
that is correct. An initial development plan is, again, not asking for any specific project. It's just simply helping develop what is the long-term potential in the area so that not only the city, as I mentioned, but others would be aware of what could potentially be built on the campus.
Other Chair?
Yes, Kenny?
Or your rental property, do you internally manage that, or do you have a management company?
We use a company to manage our rental properties. Although even since the public meeting that we held, or the neighborhood meeting, excuse me, we have intervened on a number of those things that was brought to our attention that needed attention. So I would say it's a balance between using an outside agency, but when things are brought to our attention that need some kind of an immediate response. In one of these cases, there was some, after a re-roofing of one of those homes, there was some debris left that just hadn't been picked up by the contractor yet. And rather than waiting on anybody to do that, once we received the notice and the complaint about it, we just took care of it.
Thank you.
Mr. Shetter,
Yes.
what was the count again of who signed in for your meeting?
We had 66 people who signed in as attending, and just by looking at the auditorium and how many seats were filled, we estimate there was approximately 150 people in attendance.
Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for OT? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody from the audience like to comment on item number 9? Come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Diane Hoovey, HUWE, 812 Southwest Avenue. They are all around me. Sanford is. And when they say they're transparent, or you guys say you're transparent, not so much. This is the first letter I ever got after they were around me. Could you circle where 812 Southwest Avenue is, please? Where I own a residential house. Now they own everything around me. Now you're shaping Sioux Falls. How many feet do I have to be away from an institutionally zoned place? And if I have to do that, where's my paperwork for being grandfathered in? I mean, you guys have rules, so what's the rules? They said I should come to this meeting and find out, now that I'm circled around them, do I have to be so many feet from an institutionally zoned place?
Nope.
So that I have to get evicted out of there? Or pushed out by some means?
If you own the property, you...
I own it and it's residential. I made sure it stayed residential.
You don't have to...
They institutionally zoned everything around it, and you guys slapped and did it all. You took the whole block and just zoned it institutional. But I had to make sure I stated, no, I didn't want it, or I would have got it too.
So you're not institutional, you're residential?
Yeah, I had to save my own backside on that one, yeah. But that's not legal. That was my land. That wasn't their land to be rezoned. And I had to go through the process of no. We want to change it to make it the process of yes. When you rezone, you need to get people to state, yes, they want to be rezoned, and they have to do the hoops I had to jump through and go through to have it written down and notarized and into the city by a certain date. And if you do not have that done, then you don't get rezoned. Instead, it's turned around with a no. And if you don't do it fast enough, you get rezoned. The best I could get out of you guys is a statement that says you'll send a registered letter. Your postings are very vague. The sign that you do have out for this meeting says zoning. They said they're saving money by not using the appropriate sign that said on our block, that should have said it was a planning meeting, not a rezoning one, and they use the pink signs because they're saving money. But you sure can turn around and use the money to make a beautiful arch in this city or something, but you can't be transparent to the people. Heavens no. Then we can do what we want to you and hope you survive out. I am sick and tired of this. When I get a notice and it's only my first letter from Sanford after they're all the way around me, is this America or is this a dictatorship? I'd like some answers from somebody. And every time I come to these people, you know what they say? Go talk to Sanford. And you go talk to Sanford, they say go talk to your city people. You know what? Who should I be talking to that's going to stop this nonsense to the people of Sioux Falls?
Us and the people of the city.
Oh, and now that it's happened to me, what happens to me? I've talked, I've screamed, I've yelled, and it doesn't matter, does it? You guys just keep tromping on in.
I appreciate your comments, but your property has not been rezoned. It's the same.
And will it have to be different taxed then because they're around me? Will there's going to be anything more that's going to happen to me that if I don't make sure I take my stand, I'll be undenounced knowing it happened to me, as it was for the rezoning.
You can't rezone somebody's property without their signature that says
it is
yes,
now with the Shaping Sioux Falls. It wasn't before. Yeah, you could have.
Changed several years ago,
it changed with now it had to be a registered letter comes to you. But if I didn't do the process, it would have actually been rezoned. If I hadn't gone through the notary public and said no, it would have been rezoned. Don't look at me confused. You guys set the rules. I don't.
I don't think that's the case at all.
And not anymore. Now a letter comes out in the mail.
Clarify what year you're referring to as far as when you got this notice or this letter of...
Oh, just recently. Just recently I got my letter that we were having a neighborhood meeting.
That letter, the letter that you said your certified letter regarding the rezone?
I never got a certified letter because they didn't have the process in action at the time. I just had to make sure I seen the postings that were posted. Only they post them on the light post, so you really can't see them. And then it's hurry up and done. And then the city council said the reason they do the whole block, it's quicker, sooner, and faster, and we don't have to do individual ones when they rezone it. So even though they rezoned most of the block, mine would have been locked right on into institutionally zoned had I not done the procedure to stop it.
I would have to agree with Nick on this. Your property cannot be rezoned without your approval. And we can bring staff up to help support this claim, but I'm not sure.
Then why did I have to go through the no process and make sure it was filed into the city council before the meeting? You guys don't have a clue, do you?
Oh, okay, that's rude.
Come on, Jeff, explain what you made me do.
The item tonight is an initial development plan. If there's any questions or issues on an initial development plan, not on a rezoning that happened 5 years ago, the initial development plan is the issue today. What she's referring to is back when we had PDs and Sanford came in to rezone their property to a PD. And yes, at that time, the city of Sioux Falls had a different standard, which was basically back 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. And Diane was instrumental in changing that. It has no bearing on this item tonight.
Or shaping Sioux Falls of what I have to turn around and do to make sure I don't get evicted or pushed out.
Nobody can evict you out of your own house.
Really?
Yeah.
And again, I think, again, the item is really on the initial development plan, so.
So I'm safe. I'm safe. Nothing's going to happen to me in my home. Is that correct?
Correct, yep.
Is that correct?
Totally up to you.
Okay. Thank you for documenting that.
Anybody else care to comment on item number 9?
Me neither.
I'm Mark Sanderson. I live at 13th and Grange. I missed the neighborhood meeting because I was out of town, so maybe this came up then. But I just want clarification whether 16th Street is the definite north extension of the campus, whether there's any subtle plans even to go beyond that. And secondly, is there talk of having a hospice campus in that area, 16th to 17th Street, in that area? Is there still talk about something like that?
Thanks, Mark. It's like Jeff has some.
Thank you. Some very good questions. It's one of the things that I wanted to highlight to the citizens at home watching this and to Planning Commission. The nice thing about these initial development plans is it gives the city and the citizens an understanding of that north boundary 16th Street and the west boundaries west. Okay, what they're showing is, you can see from this initial development plan, they're showing no blue buildings west of west. Okay, this is their initial development plan. They're not required to build those blue buildings. They don't need to build those blue buildings. It's a plan to build those blue buildings. But they're not planning to build anything west of west. That's how it works.
Or north of 16th.
Or north of 16th. If they wanted to, in 5 years, in 2 weeks, in 50 years, they'd come back to this body and they'd show a new initial development plan. But that's the difference between required, need. This is just a plan they're showing. We want a plan in this area. And that really helps the neighbors understand, okay, so then let's have a plan for themselves on what they can do with their properties. Then we can start planning drainage. We can start looking at traffic patterns, turning movements, bicycle movements, the housing conditions. Then we know a better understanding, too, of what we should be looking at. So now, the second part of that question from the gentleman is what specifically they're looking at. That's really a conversation for much later, when Mr. Cheddar was up here saying, right now the only thing they have doing is the one cancer center. I don't know about a hospice or whatever the next center is. Those would, again, have administrative hearings. They'd come in, they'd basically say, we're going to do a building permit, and then we'd look at this plan to see if it fit into the scope of the plan. But we don't know the land uses or specifics, whether it's going to be a restaurant or a clinic, or it's just a blue building on this master plan.
So that would be a good question for him to ask Mr. Cheddar at some, either tonight or some later date, and if Orland has any answers, he could share it at that point. Anybody else care to talk about item number 9? That'll look for commission action.
Motion to approve for discussion.
A motion and a second. Let's have some discussion.
I just wanted to comment that this plan, to me, just really exemplifies, despite some of the harsh comments I've seen or heard tonight, Sanford is a good neighbor from what I have personally witnessed in my time on the commission, especially this, or notably in my comment here, is that east parking lot. There are very tasteful things done beyond just what you would expect as an asphalt parking lot. So, to me, great work.
Thank you. Other discussion?
I think we have seen over time that change is difficult, and regardless of any neighborhood that we're in, but certainly sometimes when you're in the heart of the city. But we also have to recognize that they are an institution that's responding to needs in our community, and I think the presentation of an initial development plan like this gives everybody an opportunity to see what the future may hold on the Sanford campus. So it's more of a look-see. Here's what it is. As they said, should there be any changes or any developments to actually come to fruition, that would require additional time in front of the commission. So as far as initial development plan, this is not the first, nor will it be the last, and we look forward to seeing the other institutions across the city bring those forward as well, and appreciate the work that Sanford has done.
Thank you, Jesse. Other comments? With that, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Item 9 carries.
Item 10, 2014-0902, alternative site plan to provide an alternative buffer yard to provide shrubs located at 3501 East 10th Street.
Diane DeCoyer with planning staff. Randy Jameson with Jameson Construction is the applicant this evening, requesting an alternative site plan to the Level A buffer yard in the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District. The project is located at 3501 East 10th Street, where a new Caribou Coffee and Brugger's Bagels will occupy the previous Sonic Drive-In. The Level A buffer yard that is required is a 10-foot total setback with either a 2-foot berm or a 4-foot fence, with 20 units of landscaping for each 100 lineal feet or fraction thereof. Because the existing parking lot and landscaping at the south end of the property is adjacent to an apartment building that has an existing 6-foot-high opaque fence around it, and the project has some existing trees in the setback, the applicant will also provide approximately 17 deciduous shrubs to enhance the required screening. Because the applicant has provided a proposal that is as good or better than the required buffer yard, staff recommends approval for an alternative site plan.
Thank you, Diane.
I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Randy Jameson, Jameson Construction, 25706 Packard Lane, Renner.
Anything you'd like to add, Randy?
I'm sorry, it's not exciting.
We're not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there are questions for Randy?
Who doesn't want more coffee, especially this time of night?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about item number 10? I'll look for commission action.
Motion to approve.
Second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment that as I look at this plan, they did an excellent job of integrating pedestrian pathways to the front door and thinking carefully about how traffic is entering and approaching the building as well as that pedestrian access. So I think this is another good example of really thinking through those issues early on.
I agree wholeheartedly with that, Sean. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, same sign. Item 10 carries.
Item 11 is a 2014-0906 alternative site plan to provide an alternative buffer yard to screen outdoor storage in the WM1 form located at 315 East Maple Street.
Diane DeCoyer with planning staff. Chip Carlson with Henry Carlson Company is the applicant this evening, requesting an alternative site plan to their WM1 form. It's a maintenance yard where they have unscreened storage. The project is located at 315 East Maple Street, which is just north of the prison and the river. Henry Carlson Company is proposing to construct an addition to a storage warehouse building, and because the applicant has requested a building permit, the new Shape Places zoning ordinance requires that their existing storage, outdoor storage, be screened. A chain link and barbed wire fence and mature deciduous trees exist around the maintenance yard. The applicant is proposing to provide slats in the existing chain link fence along North 3rd Avenue and East Maple Street. The applicant is also proposing to leave the existing barbed wire fence at the rear yard adjacent to the central and northwest portions of the bike trail in lieu of providing a 6-foot opaque fence and berm. The bike trail is elevated approximately 10 to 12 feet above the storage yard, and therefore a fence or berm will not provide screening. There is, however, existing mature trees along the rear yard that will provide screening into the yard from the elevated bike trail. The applicant has also proposed cleaning up some of the yard from items that could be disposed of at the landfill. City of Sioux Falls Public Works is also proposing circuit improvements to areas adjacent to the maintenance yard. At the northwest corner, adjacent to the bike trail, Public Works is proposing an underground distribution trench where mature trees exist. With the construction of the trench and removal of some of the trees, screening will be required from the bike trail into the maintenance yard when this work is complete. Because the applicant has provided a proposal that should screen the maintenance yard, staff recommends approval for the alternative site plan. I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Diane? Thank you. Would the applicant please come forward?
Hi, I'm Chip Carlson, 48092 Red Rock Drive, Brandon. And I think Diane did a good job explaining it. I don't have much else to say.
Okay. Thank you, Chip. Any questions for Chip? All right.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sure it's a little more than you thought you were going to get when you went in to pull a building permit, but I appreciate that.
Well, it's not all that much to do, really. I mean, if they wanted me to, at first they wanted me to chain link the whole thing, then I would have had a little bit of a problem. But no, we worked it out, and I think I'm fine with it.
Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else care to comment on item number 11? Look for commission action.
A motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? No? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, same sign. Item 11 carries.
Item 12 is a 2014-0909 alternative site plan to provide an alternative buffer yard located at 5704 West 41st Street.
Jason Bieber representing the Planning Department. This is an application by Lucas Fegan for Fegan Construction. It is an alternative site plan in the BCF1 forum to provide an alternative buffer yard. The applicant is the Cabinet Dental is proposing to provide the required buffer yard for the dental office addition on the north side of the existing building, which will perform the same or at a higher level than what's required by the zoning ordinance. They are proposing to construct additional trees along the west property line, along with the existing mature trees and fence along that west side. The site is required a level A buffer yard on the north and east sides of the addition. The west side is adjacent to DD2 forms, which requires a level B buffer yard. The submitted landscape plan does meet the level A buffer yard requirements on the north and east sides. The alternative is for the level B requirements along the west side of the addition, adjacent to the DD2 forms. The submitted plan does indicate 2 additional 2-inch caliber deciduous shade trees in the west buffer yard. The additional trees, along with the 3 existing mature coniferous trees and screen fence in the buffer yard, should provide that necessary buffering from the addition to the adjacent form, DD2 forms. And because the application has provided clarity and indicate location, nature, and extent of the work proposed and the proposed buffer yard landscaping should adequately buffer the property, staff does recommend approval of the alternative site plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions? Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Good evening. Lucas Fegan of Fegan Construction, 3712 Southwestern Avenue, and I don't believe I have anything extra.
All right, any questions for Lucas? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I'll ask if there's anybody else here that wants to comment, but seeing nobody out there, I'll look for commission action.
Motion to approve. Easy tonight.
Make a motion to approve.
Having a motion and a second, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed, same sign. Item 12 carries.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, please say yes.
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 We are adjourned.
Holy cow, that scared me.